Hey, how about that? I'm going to turn this level up. And it's looking a little low. I'm not sure why. My mic, yeah, no. Sorry, Stuff with Kirby. I have level settings in like 94 places. Yeah, I bet you weren't hearing any intro music either. That's too bad. Here, let's give you some intro music. There was the funky intro music. I don't think that was playing. All right, yeah, so yes, thank you. Thank you for coming early, or at the beginning at least, so that we can work out the audio, which is always our fun weekly challenge. Let me get rid of that music there. So thank you for joining me here today on John Park's workshop. I'm going to have a slightly deeper voice today because I've got a little bit of a cold. Sorry about that. And I wanted to get going with the show. So one thing is I am now broadcasting in 1080p today. Even this camera, that camera, the text. Check out the Discord. This should be, if anything matters, it's the text looking nice and sharp, I think. So there you are in the chat. Hello. 1080p today. Let me know how that works for you. So the next thing I wanted to take care of, because sometimes I seem to forget, is coupon code. Check it out. Today's 10% off coupon code for viewers of this very show is Nessman. That's right, Nessman. If you're only listening and not watching, that's Nessman. And Matambale got the reference. We're going to be talking about software-defined radio today, so that's why I picked that. If you don't know what that is, Google Nessman. All right, so that's coupon code today. You can use that on anything other than gift certificates in the Adafruit store, so head on over. There's a bunch of cool new stuff that just came out, actually. So speaking of cool new stuff, before we get into the meat of the show, I thought I would start a new segment. Let's head over to the workbench for a second. And by let's, I mean me. So I've moved over to the workbench. And I'm actually going to swap out the camera for, not that one, but this one, because I want to show you some finds that I got in my junking and thrifting this week. So I got a couple of really cool things. One I ought to be using, but I'm not yet, and that is this pressure zone microphone. I think that's what PZM stands for. This is a microphone style, a particular kind of microphone. Sometimes I think they're called boundary mics. And I used to use them working in the theater. They were a great way to mic a big area. So we put 3 of these on the front of the stage or close to the front of the stage. And it has like a hemisphere of pickup. It's very omnidirectional. So these are cool. You usually mount the plate on another, like a 1 foot by 1 foot something if you don't have a floor or a table or a wall to put it on. So I was excited because I got this for $9, and it's a Realistic brand, so that's a Radio Shack brand. Let's unwrap this thing. I haven't even tried it yet. I hope it works. These were, there's some debate about this. These were either made by Crown, which is another microphone company, or Crown licensed the use of the name PZM, because I think that was a trademark of Crown. So this one is a moderately nice one. It does not have balanced cables and an XLR. It's a regular unbalanced cable and a tip and ring. It has a little pack here for powering it. And I think they say that you can use, I can't remember if there was a battery adapter, but you can use 12 volts, which is going to give you better gain than the one AA battery that would fit in there. So there's some modifications and things to try. But that, I might be using this on the show, because if I stick it right somewhere on my workbench, we may get kind of nice sound of everything and not just the little lavalier that's pointed up at me, but other sounds. So we'll see. So that was $9 at the thrift store. $9 well spent. And my other exciting find, let me zoom in on this one, is this Walkman. It's a Ibanez brand who usually make guitar stuff, sometimes pedals. This is called the Rock and Play 200, RP200X. And I have been lately getting interested in, I've pulled out some of my old recording gear, like 4-track cassette tape recording stuff, where you can record on 4 tracks at a time on a single cassette. You can also play stuff backwards, and I'm thinking of incorporating that in some tape loops and things. This one's pretty cool because it's a tape deck that has a half-speed control, so you can drop it down in half speed, which sounds kind of crazy low on a tape. It has a pitch control. I haven't tested what the range is of that, what percentage or how many steps. It was meant to tune a song to your guitar, basically. It has inputs, so you could put a couple of guitars, a guitar and a bass, guitar and keyboard into here, so that you could play along. So it's essentially got a mixer built in. So these are 2 little mixer knobs here, which is pretty sweet. What else? It's got effects on it. So it's got a chorus, or it's got a chorus and distortion that you can put on. So I will, it works. It actually wasn't working at first, but I busted it open and put a new band on one of the rollers that was turning. Most of the mechanism had kind of melted into goo. So anyway, that's my other fun find for the week. And whoops, I'm going to pull up my chat over here. Talk Boy from the 90s. What was the Talk Boy, Noe? I don't know that one. Was it a Sony thing? Oh, let me turn off my chat. There. Whoa, hey. Top chat. There you are. Okay, so those are my finds for the week. I tend to hit thrift stores and things like that, or find things at estate sales. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, I will every once in a while pop in and show you some of those on the beginning of the show. What do you think of that? So let's get into software-defined radio. So I'm going to head back. Actually, let me switch for a second to this little view right here in the corner. That right there is a TV reception gizmo. Actually, let me go big screen on that. So this has some dogs going nuts out there. I bet you can hear that. Probably the PZM would pick it up too. So this is a little dongle that's made to receive over-the-air television and then with some software play that onto something like a laptop. I think these were meant for use in non-NTSC US countries. I think this was for Europe with PAL systems or something like that. But the interesting thing is that what these are doing is bringing in frequencies and demodulating them as well as tuning them. So some people a few years ago, and there's some, I don't know, debate about who did it first, but I think there's a guy named Eric Fry who was one of the people who figured out this idea of doing software-defined radio where you're using the circuitry in this plus software to tune a whole bunch of different things in the radio frequency spectrum that are interesting to listen to, which normally would be the job of dedicated analog hardware. So typically you'd have to get a few different pieces of gear if you wanted to listen to things in different ranges. So the idea behind software-defined radio is that computers are fast enough to actually do a bunch of that work in software rather than with dedicated hardware. So this little guy plugged into a computer with some software and an antenna, and this one that I'm showing here, let me switch cameras again, is a little dongle and antenna set. Where's the camera? That we sell in the store on Adafruit. I think it's around $20 or so. And so you can plug in different kinds of antennas. If you want to get into some really interesting stuff that we'll talk about later, you'll need a better antenna than this. But this one is pretty good for picking up some interesting stuff locally. So that little antenna plugs into there. And yeah, you know what? While I'm here at the workbench, I don't want to forget, I'll show you. This is kind of an interesting idea on, we're getting blocked by my own camera, on getting a little bit better reception. So there is, and I don't know antenna theory as mentioned last week when we did AM radio stuff, but we got some great people in the chat. Cedar Grove, C. Grover, is a really great person to talk to about antenna stuff. He's actually been helping me offline figure out some antenna stuff for another project. But one thing that I've read is that with this particular little whip antenna, if you can complete the ground plane, this just happens to be a sticker, a Maker Faire sticker that I put on top of a little coffee. I store coffee in this thing. This has a little magnet in the base. If you set this on top of a piece of metal that has the same diameter as the length of this whip, you actually improve the antenna quite a bit. So that's a little groovy hack I wanted to mention that you can do to try to improve this, and then beyond that you can get much more effective antennas, which you might get outside your house and on up high to pull in better reception. But with, maybe I'll bring this one over here, but with that, let's take a look at software-defined radio and how it works. You might be interested. Hey, that's me again. So let's bring up some software here. So this is one of the couple of really stable, good software-defined radio packages that is on Mac OS. I'm running a Mac here. There are a lot more choices on Windows for software-defined radio. SDR Sharp is a really good choice on Windows, and I'm going to point you at some guides and tutorials that we have and some other links that'll get you started. But this one on Mac OS I've found to be quite nice. It's simple. It's a good one to get started with, and it is called Cubic SDR, Cubic. And so, excuse me, so the first challenge I have is I want to bring up the audio on that for you. And I'm monitoring it just over some headphones so I don't get too much of an echo onto my mic. So let me know if you start hearing music.
Has been kind enough to donate.
Try to not stay on anything for too long so that we don't get YouTube copyright violations. In fact, this is here some snow.
It says the Best You Expo. That's a pretty cover.
It looks
the
from
Best
my
You
meter
Expo.
like you should be
and
getting
just click
that.
on there, and
So
you will be
in the
able to,
chat,
as a
let me know. Yeah, now,
KPFK
can you
listener,
guys hear
get a free ticket to the.
And yeah, you get completely set. How about this? You're getting something. I just moved the antenna somewhere a little less noisy, and I put it on that tin. Great. Okay, I'm going to move before we get to YouTube copyright.
Mention who they're going to see. We talked about expos. We talked about why going is so important to
as I talk
shift,
through.
to change your internal conversation.
Okay, yeah. So
to
I'm
get
dropping the
together
gain
with
on that.
people. Now let's
And you can see what I'm doing over
talking
here.
about
So in
some
the
of
interface here,
opportunities there,
the very first
to
thing
meet
I'm going to
people and
do
who's gonna be
is when you start this up, you're going to select that dongle that you've plugged in. And I don't think I can show that to you easily because I don't have that mapped as a screencast. But you basically pick the device that you have plugged in, and it will. I'm going to go to static and drop this all the way. It will then give you a start-stop so you can start up the device, and then it brings up this interface for tuning. So let me minimize some of this so it doesn't look as nutty over here on the side. So to explain what we have here, the different bands that we can listen to are listed over here on the left. And so what I was just listening to is FM. In fact, there's FM stereo, so that'll, as you can see here, give me both streams that are a little different audio in each ear. So FM and FM stereo are your normal broadcast radio. And so that's from 88 to 106 or so megahertz in the frequency modulation or FM band. So when we talk about the frequency and we talk about bandwidth, that's actually something that you can control directly in the software. So if we look right here at this frequency counter, I can drop down to 81, where we're going to just see some weird stuff going on that's not FM radio broadcast. But let's go up to something like 88. And I've got a couple tuners in there already. So what happens is when you want to listen to what what you're seeing here, let's go up a little higher. We can look in this waterfall, and that's showing us essentially the absence of anything interesting is the blue, and some signal coming through are these colors leading up to red through yellow and green. So if I look at this is a set of the bandwidth here, I can zoom in on the bandwidth, so you'll see my numbers here are just between 90.2 and 90.3. Right here, that's the maximum bandwidth that that little dongle can capture. So we're seeing about, what, 89 to 91. So it's about, I have it set right now to, I think, about 2.5 megahertz. Is that right? I'll probably get those wrong. But 2.5 somethings. I think it's 2.5 megahertz, or is it kilohertz? Someone tell me. Can't be kilohertz, can it? Could be. Anyway, that range, no, it's megahertz. So that range that we're getting right there is just a section of, if you think about an FM dial, it's just a section of what we can listen to. So it can grab that section of the frequencies coming in and then start demodulating it into interesting signals. So thank you, megahertz. Thank you, C. Grover. See? Very helpful to have Discord people. So when I decide to listen to a section of this, I'm going to click, and it's actually laying down a little demodulation. So it's saying, all right, let's try to listen to what's there. Now, let me turn this down again for a second. Now, not only am I centering in on a frequency, but I also have a width around that frequency. So the things that I want to tune in and listen to may actually have a bit of width to them. The signal's coming over a little bit of a range of this frequency. So what we can do is broaden or tighten. And this little view up here is just kind of a zoomed in version of the big view, so it's a little convenient for some of these tunings. So this is kind of interesting. Listen to, if we tune it in or narrow it so much, this we'll start to lose frequencies of the audio that we're hearing, and it can actually sound pretty bizarre. So check this out.
Yep. Oxygen boost, vitamin boost, all sorts of great stuff. So that's just...
Oh, this is not like, hold on. Oh, you know what? I think in FM that's as narrow as I can get. Now, I'm going to switch over to AM here for a second, and without going into, so we are not going to be able to go into the section of the bandwidth for AM broadcast radio. That's actually lower frequency than this can tune. I believe I have that right. I think it's low, not high. So, but I can still listen to stuff that is amplitude modulated, and there is stuff that's non-broadcast that is interesting to listen to that we can check out. But notice here, I'll find something that's probably crosstalk from the FM. But watch this as I zoom way deep in. So I'm getting very muffled little tiny section of the frequency. If I switch views here, this is the sound meter versus the signal meter. If we go back to our FM and go to this classical station, oh, he's talking right now. But you can see these are, this is where the voice is. And you'll see a broad range of frequencies when you're playing in orchestral music, for example. Switch out of there for a second again. So let's take a look at another really sort of prime example of things you can do with this that go beyond just FM broadcast. And it is convenient for that. If you don't have a regular radio and you want to listen on your computer, you can use this for that. If we go into the narrow band of FM, and I've got my local weather radio from the NOAA, I've already got that frequency that I found online, and that's 162. They all live around this 162, but it'll vary by your locale what exact frequency they're giving it to you. And
Saturday, northwest winds 10 to 20 knots, becoming west 15 to 20 knots in the afternoon. Wind waves 2 to 3 feet. west swell 2 to 3 feet at 11 seconds. Saturday night, west winds 10 to 15 knots. Wind waves 2 feet or less. West swell 2 to 3 feet at 11 seconds. Sunday, west winds 10 to 15 knots.
Lost control of the software. It is. I'm going to stop and restart my device. So let's see if that kicks it back into gear. It stopped responding. Oh, I don't know why it stopped responding now. Oh, there it's back. Okay. So what did I say that was? 162 and 5.
Then a brief break early next week before another storm is forecast to arrive by early Wednesday and bring possible precipitation into Thursday.
Oh, that's interesting. You know what? It messed with... Move that there. It messed with... I've had quite a complicated setup to try to be able to play my mic to you guys as well as this stuff, and piping it through a mixer and some other things, and it did something when I switched. I think when I flipped it off and on, it switched out, so now it's coming over my computer speakers, which is no good. I think I've got them turned all the way down, and yet it's still trying. Okay, maybe I've fixed it. Let's see. Okay, so that is my weather radio, I think. Yes. So what I was experiencing there is having two demodulators on at the same time. So you can actually, believe it or not, the software can dice up and deal with the broadcast in a couple of different sections simultaneously. So if you ever hear it being really noisy, it may be that you have two demodulators within that band that you're able to see at that time. So now another interesting thing, this will be madness. Let's see if this works. My microphone that I use is broadcasting at, I can look at it here, let's see, 518.2 megahertz, and that's also going to be narrowband FM, so wireless mic packs you can listen in on. Now this one, I actually made a bookmark in the software. Let's see if I've got it still. What did I just say that was? No, I didn't make a bookmark. All right, I might have quit before I. So 518.2, I believe I said. And there I should be. I think that's my voice, and oh, look, it's not letting me change the gain on that. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm breaking stuff left and right, but I think you can see that's a nice, really strong signal we get right here. And that's because that's this mic pack that's turned on. So let's get off of there. If we tune away from the demodulator we've set down, it quiets down. It doesn't automatically try to play anything that's sitting in the screen there. And now let's see, can you hear, let's see. Okay, that might be going through the headphones again. Let me try. Oh yeah, that really broke. Let me try to quit Cubic and relaunch that. Hi, Jelly Pumpkin, happy birthday in the YouTube chat. Oh, this is going to be I think it's the first one here. I have two of them plugged in. So I said earlier, you can have multiple dongles. I've got two plugged in. And so I'm going to make a new screen share for you with that new instance. When I quit an application that was being screen shared, then it disappears from my Wirecast available windows. So there are pluses and minuses. If you actually make a screen capture that's just pointed at a section of your screen, it's good, but we've always found that my cursor is off from there, which is weird. So here we go. I'm going to turn on, so you can see that now, yeah? Move this over for you. So So this will be the demonstration of what happens every time you start it up. Move that over a little bit. There you go. I will start the device. Maybe I will. Did it crash? It's come back alive in a weird state. There it is. All right. So now I think my output is... I don't know what that is, but it's awful quiet. Is that my mic? I think that's... No, I said it was 518. There I am. Hey, yeah, okay. Now I'm getting an echo. I'm guessing you can hear that too. So that's my voice. I don't know what this is, if this is a hiss or something, or it might be lower than we can hear. And there's the gain. Okay, so that's a nice, I'm very close to the antenna here with my little transmission pack, so it gets a really clear signal. Here's another cool one, and that is any of these little walkie-talkies. These are also in a frequency range that you can pick up with these. So this I wrote down so I would find it again. And so one thing I would advise you to check out is radioreference.com and RTL-SDR.com. So RTL is the name of the chip that's used inside of that dongle. So that name got used to describe a lot of this stuff. But RTL-SDR.com, lots of great info there about what the different sections of the bandwidth are used for. Radio reference, if you find something interesting, you can often look it up on there and see who's using that piece of the frequency range. So these tend to be in a couple of different ranges. This is in the 40 megahertz narrowband. So if I switch over to narrowband here in my software, and then you can type these in, but you guys wouldn't see me typing because of the way this. So what did I say? This guy is at, I have 40.925. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this on. And then when I press my little so that's my little call, and you can see if we make a little demodulator here, and I'm going to zoom in on the band a little bit. So this is me clicking. You can see that data go by. Now I can center my demodulator right on that, and I'll widen it a little. And now I should be able to get, hello, are we talking? Yeah, okay. So now I'm getting a little bit of an echo on that. Bleep, bleep. Move that off of there. So links for that, someone asked about if you had them handy. I can put those in, RTL-SDR.com and radioreference.com. Those are both cool and worth checking out. What was this other one I wanted to show? I have something written. Oh, that was just me typing into the wrong window. Okay, yeah, so those are some of those interesting examples of things to check out. I saw that someone mentioned aircraft. So in the AM, there are a few different ranges where you can listen to air traffic control talking to pilots and back and forth. There's also something else I want to show you, which is a thing that's sometimes called AirTrack, and it has ACIS, I think might be one of its names, but it's essentially transponder information that's sent. So it's not someone talking, but it's information that's sent from aircraft just kind of out into the radio waves. So I'm going to switch over, and we'll see. I might need to restart this. We'll give this a second and see if it pops up with anything. So this is a piece of software I'm using called Airplane.js. So it's written in JavaScript. I will put up a link for that as well. But Airplane.js is you can see here it's using Google Maps to display information. It's popped up all the airports in my area. I'm in Los Angeles. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to quit the program and relaunch it to kind of goose it. I've had it running for a couple hours and it might need to be refreshed. So Airplane.js is using one of my dongles there. Oh, it said it couldn't open the device. Okay, so I'm going to quit this one, or actually just hit stop on it, on my session of Cubic, just because I'm not sure which one is which. And there are ways to tell software which of two dongles to use if they have unique identifiers. Oh, couldn't open the device again, so I'm going to unplug and replug. Let's see if it does it this time. Okay, so it worked that time, so it restarted my device, it's connected, and now my antenna is going to start listening to hear transponder information that tells us things about the aircraft number, the heading, what else? We'll see it in a second when an airplane shows up on this map. We can click on it, and this one's acting really slow, and I'm not sure why, but I'm a few versions of Mac. ADSB, thank you, someone mentioned. ADSB, Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcast. That is not the other things I said. ADSB. Okay, so there's one now. So there's something that's headed towards Pasadena. I'm going to try to click on that. Like I said, I think my version of Mac OS is so much newer than when this one was written that it has some little graphics display issues or something. But if you're patient with it, that allowed me to click on it. And now I can see, so this is an airline called NetJets. And there's the call sign. It's at 4,900 feet, ground speed of 200 knots. And it's tracking to 115 degrees. Now, that is all the info that's coming, that we can decode, that's coming directly from the airplane's transponder and over to my little antenna here. Let's see, is this the one? This is the one that is plugged in. So we'll put it on my little coffee can thing to improve the signal a little bit. There we go. Bonk. We'll see if that makes hundreds of airplanes pop up suddenly. Probably not. I'm inside of a workshop, not very high up with this, but so our guy is turning now. You can see now he's tracking at 56 degrees. He's climbing. Now I'm going to try to click on this other one and see what that one's info is all about. Stephen Mann in YouTube chat says that NetJets is Air Uber for the wealthy. That's awesome. If we watch that guy, he's probably going on a short little trip from Calabasas to Santa Monica or something like that. I'll bet you it's probably 10 minutes in the plane and would be an hour and a half in a car. So there's an American Airlines that's headed who knows where, but you can see all his info. So now let's go. Yeah, I'll go ahead with this. I'm kind of interested in this Uber thing, what you call it, NetJets. I'm going to click back on him. And then a fun thing you can do is you'll see there's this link on the info pop-up for a thing called flightradar24.com. And so when this finally updates, there we go. So that's my guy, my NetJets. I'm going to click on this. It's going to open up a new page, and I'm going to have to make a new screen capture for you for that because it's going to be a different. It's going to be a different window that pops up. Oh no, it's doing it in that one. Okay, that's fine. I didn't. I think if you right-click, you would probably say open in another tab. So this is actually convenient for us. So ever so slowly. Again, I don't know why it's being so slow. It's now going to jump over to flightradar.com, which is not based on my little RTL-SDR antenna picking up stuff. This is just a much bigger database. I actually don't know what feeds it, but this gives us tons of info about our little guy there. Let's see if we can find him. He should be selected in here, but maybe it's taking a second to Let's see if I can zoom in. There's my guy. Okay, he's headed over Beverly Hills. Where did he come from, I wonder? All right. Let's see, is there just not a lot of info on him because he's this super sneaky thing? That could be the case. Yeah, because I think often I've seen a lot more info just kind of pop up automatically, but let's see. Yeah, I can't remember if there's something else to click. Usually it'll just pop up. Let's see if it's this drop down. Yeah, So this is the ADS-B View 4 Global 9432. Is that our guy? That might be our guy. Or is that just in general stuff it's tracking right now? I'm not sure. So anyway, this is pretty interesting if you're looking for something to do with a new SDR. It's actually pretty straightforward to, oh look, it's defaulting to Paris. I think the guy who wrote the airplane JS was in Paris. So that's gonna take a moment, and then when it settles, it'll come back to Los Angeles. But it's a fun thing. You can look at a lot of tutorials online. I've got some links that are, I'm gonna show you actually right now, how about, that are, I'm gonna make a new screen capture for you. The upcoming little mini guide that's going to collect some, let's do a window. Can I do a section of a monitor? I can't remember. Let's see. No, I can't. Okay. You know what? I'll tell you about that, and we can post them if we need to. So first thing is, if you go to learn.adafruit.com and just type in SDR, you're going to get a couple tutorials that we have. One is a very basic tutorial on getting up and running. That one's geared towards Windows. Let me head back to this guy for a fun new view. Oh, that one disappeared. Let's go to the workshop in the background. So you can take a look at the Learn Guide for the basics, getting started, which is for SDR Sharp, which is a really popular one on Windows. And then there's also a cool tutorial on using a little TFT display on a Raspberry Pi to build an RF scanner that just kind of gives you one of those views that you saw in my software of the frequencies that are going by as you scan through. The other thing you can take a look at is different projects out there that go beyond just listening to these broadcasts. For example, there are digital speech. So some systems use speech that's been digitized, and you can get digital speech decoders. So the audio coming into your RTL-SDR software can then be piped to another piece of software that's just listening to that, almost like listening to Morse code, and decode it. Morse code is another one. So if you look at, let me see if I can bring my software back up. Did I close it? I did, didn't I? Let me plug this. Okay, I'm going to quit our airplane software. I'm going to bring up Cubic again. And I'll show you there's also a, now this one's not tuned for Morse code, but you can listen to it if you find it. Do another screen capture here. Oh, it showed up. I don't need to. Good. Just move that over for you, and let me see if I can get this one started. I may have to pick the device with it. Ooh, it's feeling a little broken. Yeah, okay, that's okay. Although it's not, it hasn't fired up my radio for me. Oh, I see, it still thinks the other one is plugged in, which it's not. It didn't get rid of that list. One moment. There we go. And I can't remember where some of the Morse code ones tend to be, but they tend to be ham radio Morse code, and maybe someone in the chat knows. If you look at, we've talked about frequency modulation, stereo frequency modulation, narrowband frequency modulation. We have amplitude modulation. Another thing you'll find in amplitude modulation is CB radios. I believe that's one of those that's in the AM. Yeah, 27 megahertz. So let's see if we find anything there, just on an off chance. It's not too likely, because that tends to be truckers, and I don't have a highway near my place here. So, oh, why is this not tuning? Oh, that's interesting. Let's see if it'll go there if I type it. 27. Yeah. So in the AM, you might see something pop up around 27, and that would be the truckers or other people using citizen band. And then we have these two interesting guys. This is lower sideband and upper sideband and dual sideband. And so these lower and upper sidebands, they tend to have like a really, really narrow bandwidth, so that you can essentially fit two messages on what looks like one stream. So the left half of the stream might have one Morse code stream, and the right might have another. At least that's how I understand it. Oh, look, we're seeing something show up there. That might just be noise. Is that making any sounds? There's something. Oh yeah, we're getting someone. We got some CB radio. That's fun. Very brief transmission. So what you can do now is bookmark it. Oh, you're not hearing that, are you? Sorry.
Yeah, but it can't. You need to back out. We're trying to do it through these episodes, yeah. So keep on keeping on. And we will be doing it from time to time down the career line every bigger show. Mr. Rustin,
CB for you.
You have any stations back out?
I don't know what we're hearing there, but let's tune out before anything crazy happens. That was fun. So if you like that and want to come back to it, you can bookmark it. Oh, my little interface here isn't showing it up? Hey, that's weird. Yeah, there's some missing stuff right here, isn't there? Add a group. Let's add a group. Maybe that'll let us. Demos 2. Huh. Yeah, something broke in my interface, so I probably have to restart this. But you can write that down. But you can also make these little bookmarks if you want to go back to somewhere again. And it remembers the frequency. It remembers the bandwidth. And it remembers the modulator type. So we got a suggestion in the chat from, let's see, Matambale and Stephen Mann on some ham CW. So 7,000 kilohertz. I don't know if this one can go there. Is that 7 megahertz? I don't think I can go that low. Not here. Right, that's 1 megahertz, so I would need to go below that, and it doesn't. Right? Someone tell me. I think this is out of the range here. Okay, so 2.5, 5, 10, or 15. I think 15 megahertz is close to the lowest that we can actually pick up. So here's 15 megahertz, and this is where we might find some of our continuous wave, so CW, continuous wave Morse code. So interesting thing about continuous wave is that it's actually, I think it's a continuous like sine wave. It's like the simplest thing with the smallest bandwidth. And when the Morse code operator presses, it just starts and stops that transmission. So it's not changing the frequency, it's not changing the amplitude. It's sort of a different animal. And if you're interested, and if you can tune that in, you want to look online, find some tutorials to talk about what kind of antennas you might need. But if you can tune in some Morse code, and particularly if you're on Windows using SDR Sharp, there are a lot of plugins for SDR Sharp, or I mentioned you can use pieces of software. I think there's one called Audio Cable. It's a piece of software that routes your audio from one program to another. So you can take the audio output from your SDR sharp and go into the input of a decoder for your Morse code. So you can have text popping up right in front of your eyes without having to actually be able to listen to and hear the Morse code and translate it in your head, which is pretty cool. So let me see. I think those are the main things that I wanted to cover of places that you can go listen to interesting things. There are lots of other things that are out there on the airwaves. Tracking for ships, for example, if you're near a harbor. There's transponders everywhere doing the same sort of thing that our airplanes were doing there. You might want to check that out. You can tune in, what else? Television. There are some television things that'll tune in. And there's also a type of satellite image that you can download. And this is kind of an interesting one. So if you tune in, again, with your regular RTL-SDR, you may need a better antenna than this little whip antenna, but you can, again, send the output of that into something that's going to decode line by line, and it takes quite a few minutes, but after a few minutes, you can actually get a image loading in that's usually a weather satellite image. So those are also pretty interesting and things that people like to check out. So let's see, I'm curious what other suggestions people have on things that they've tried. Let's see, Azure Sky says the video transmitters for his mini quads run on 5.8 megahertz. So I think that's outside of our range on these guys. I wrote that down. What is their range? So 24 megahertz, yeah, so I'm not going to get this 15. 24 megahertz is the lower end of these little dongles, this little RTL-SDR dongles. And the maximum is 1766 megahertz. The bandwidth that you can get at a maximum is about 3.2 megahertz, so that's that range of sort of stations that we see at one time before we slide over and have to put demodulators down in another area. Let me pop up I want to bring up let's see, can we use our old friend, the screen capture? Yeah, where's that window? Where'd that window go? I've lost that window. You can see it, but I can't find it to talk to it. Hey, window, there you are. Yeah, I can use this one. So if you go to Adafruit and check out in the shop, there are, actually, let's do SDR here. There's also this HackRF1 software-defined radio. You can see quite a price difference, right? We've got a $22 one, and then this one is about $300. So they're out of stock right now. I don't know if we're restocking those or not, but if you take a look out there, especially if you go to, I mentioned RTL-SDR. Typing is easy. Shoo. They have some quick start guides that will talk about hardware, tutorials on some of the things that I mentioned about decoding things that are interesting. I think they actually sell their own version of this same little dongle that they have gone and done a modification to. And I forget what that mod gives you. Let me know if anyone remembers. I can't remember if that goes into a little lower and a little higher range, but there's some modifications that can be done. And there was one other thing I wanted to show you. What was that? Here's radio reference. So you can drill down in here. If you go into the database, into the frequency database, you can pick your region. So if I go into Los Angeles, you can then say, hey, I want to see what city stuff there is. And then this gives me a list of frequencies for different cities. So let's say you're in, how about Anaheim? Is Anaheim? Oh, they're going to be in Orange County. All right, let's use Arcadia, for example. So there's a Public Works that's in FM. I can't remember. Some of these will tell you if it's a, okay, so yeah, this won't tell you if it's a digitized speech, but most of these are. So police stuff tends to be digitized speech. You're not going to be able to listen to that. But you can hear dispatch for ambulance sometimes, I've heard, and definitely for like taxi cab companies and other driving So that's an interesting site to go just to drill down in and take a look at the things that are available out there. So let's see, I had a little list of links I thought I'd show you. This is kind of cool. Here is a satellite image coming in over SDR. So I'm not going to need the sound up on this one, but if we, so this is software that's being piped into from, I think, SDR Sharp. But over here on the left, what you'll see is line by line. This is real time. This is a, can I make that bigger for you? There you go. This is a satellite weather image, black and white, that's coming in. Basically, it's a modem in space over the air, right? Pretty cool. So let's skip forward a bit. You can see it growing and growing and growing. Oh, it's halfway there. Look at this. And I believe it'll tell you everything about where it is right now in space. I don't know if it tells you where it's pointing at, but there's a lot of information that's broadcast by these satellites as they beam down their images to this, your Earth, which is pretty wild. So that is one of the cool projects I thought you'd check out. Oh, another thing to check out is actually there's a subreddit on Reddit, RTL-SDR subreddit. And there's SIG ID Wiki. So when I first started playing around with this, I was hoping to get to listen to number stations, but those are outside of, I think those are shortwave. Those are outside of the range of these dongles. But number stations are interesting. There's mysterious stations that may be used for something to do with espionage. No one's quite sure. Cuba's been running one forever. That just have people saying lists of numbers, which who knows what they are. But this SIG ID Wiki is a great place. Like I said before, if you find something interesting, you're like, what could this be? This is a forum, a discussion forum, where people try to solve these mysteries. So if you dive into, let's say, amateur radio, this will tell you all kinds of frequencies to tune into, what you're going to hear, what the modulation type is, the bandwidth, and even images of the waterfalls. Sorry, we got an ad for underwear over there. New install, I haven't put an ad blocker in yet. And even audio samples of what you'll hear. So that is a pretty cool reference if you're new into this. And let's see. The last one that I wanted to show you a link for, there's a friend of Adafruit and Make, a guy that many of us have known for years, Jared Boone, and he created this TPMS reverse engineering hack, which listens to tire pressure gauges. So he's got a good talk on it. There's a, I'll put a link for this actually, if you're interested in checking it out, over in the various chats. It's github.com/jboone, B-O-O-N-E/TPMS. So he says it's about $50 worth of hardware and then a computer. And what he's doing is using a software-defined radio to pick up the little signal that each tire in a car that's using a radio remote tire pressure gauge, which is, I think, government mandated after 1998 or something. So pretty much all cars tell you what their pressure is. So it's pretty fascinating that with a laptop you can listen to something that your car's brain was meant to be the only receiver of, but you could walk around a parking lot and perhaps you're a superhero who likes to help people out and you find tires that are getting low and you fill them up for someone, or at least leave them a nice note. There's a lot of ways you could use that, but pretty wild that that information is being spewed out there and is readily available to decode if you're able to reverse engineer the signal and do a whole ton of interesting stuff that Jared did to hack that. I thought that was wild, and it was a surprise when I was Googling around for some interesting SDR stuff a few months ago to see Jared show up. Let's see. Oh, and one other thing is on the, I mentioned RTL-SDR. They've got a great intro page. Pull that up. that tells you what it is, gets you started, talks about things you can do. So this is a really great list. Let me blow that up for you. So these are just some of the things you can do. We've discussed some of these already. Listening to unencrypted conversations, tracking aircraft, trunking radio conversations, cordless phones and baby monitors. Those are 900 megahertz. I remember when I was a kid, you would hear those on some, I think, UHF stations maybe, or VHF stations on a little television set. If someone was talking on the phone, maybe that was when it was 433, you'd hear phone conversations downstairs that your friend's mom was having if you were over there having lunch and watching Stripes or whatever we were doing. Are you getting a 404 error on that link? Oh, that's weird. I don't know why that would be. Maybe it's because I'm logged into GitHub and that put the secure thing on there. I'm not sure. But yeah, baby monitors, those are at 900, I think, so you can hear signals coming through those. What else? One thing that goes well beyond just RTL-SDR is starting to play around with having transmitter receivers and making little data networks with some of this software-defined demodulation and modulation, as well as receiving and transmitting. So that is all I've got for today for you on RTL-SDR. I hope that was interesting, and I will stick around in the chat for a little while to see what people are up to and answer questions or take suggestions. And other than that, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy exploring the airwaves with some RTL-SDR. It's a lot of fun. Bye-bye.